Welcome to Limeworks TV and a very special episode. It's New Car Day. Welcome everybody, welcome to Chichester and the showroom here at Harbour Cars, where we are joined by some resplendent Stuttgart metal and, to be honest with you, even better human beings, because I'm delighted to share what is collection day for me with members of the Driven Not Hidden Collective. 40th anniversary went a couple of weeks ago. The question, the reason you're going to be watching this is, so what's replacing it? Well, look, with the anniversary being a hot Carrera derivative of the 996 generation, a pre-GTS, I've said in an earlier video, I wanted something that offered a bit of a different experience to Little Irish, the other car in my stable. I wanted something with better build quality, definitely. And I really like the colour midnight blue as a bit of a bonus, but isn't really anything too heavy in terms of the decision making. However, I also thought, wouldn't it be good to have all of that with a Metzger engine? So I've bought a GT3. Why GT3? Well, we're going to discuss that a little bit later in the video. The big thing I want to say from the start is my choice in terms of where I wanted to go next was kind of chiselled down over the last few weeks. And again, we'll talk about that later on in the video. The big thing for me was trust. This GT3, it's by far the most expensive thing I've ever bought outside of a house. It's a hell of a lot of money for me. So trust was really important. And for that reason, I haven't looked outside of the Limeworks marketplace. As I say all the time on this channel, all the cars, they're all backed by brilliant warranties, trustworthy dealers where the cars are prepped to a really high standard. And as a buyer, it's been really comforting to feel the benefit of that, because obviously I go on about it all the time. So that's been really refreshing. So I want to say a big thanks to the guys at Harbour Cars for bringing me on that journey. It's been highly rewarding. So we'll have a look around the car first of all. And you may remember it was on the channel a couple of weeks ago. I drove the car, and I don't mind saying behind the scenes that about halfway through my test drive video on the car, I pulled over and called Chris at Sussex Asset Finance. I loved it that much. I wanted a GT3, having done that track day a couple of weeks ago at Thruxton, which I also showed you on the channel. You know, whilst it was sublime to do that in Little Irish, that car is 27 years old and 178,000 miles old now. Track environment is not the place for it. I really want to have a different experience with 911s, which is why I've gone for a GT3 with cage and everything else to just, as I said, have a bit of a different experience. So I'll show you around the car. 996.2, Andrew's Pointinger's first car. It's in midnight blue. The paint has got such a lovely depth to it. It really pops under the sun. I better undo it, hadn't I? That would help. And thanks to Sunil, by the way, behind the camera for helping me. So it's got the equipment cage, the elephant ear buckets, and the big reason I loved the car and it appealed to me so much was the Tractive system. I mentioned on my video that the 996.2 GT3, it's quite one-dimensional. It's unapologetically a track car, which is great, but that can also be to the detriment of the car in terms of like general usability. I'm not hoping, I know, having test driven the car for the video, that this just unlocks another dimension and another use case for this car. But that's it. We'll jump in and we'll discuss the story a little bit further and answer some of your questions. A big thanks to the Harbour Cars team for a memorable handover day, where I was lucky enough to be joined by some great people from the Driven Not Hidden Collective. Now, I do have the footage rolling out of the Harbour Cars showroom for the very first time in my 911 GT3. Still can't get used to that. And at this point, I do want to say thanks to my friends Nick and Mike for supplying the footage that you're watching now. The clips were sent via WhatsApp, so they are pixelated as a result, but you get the gist. This was the first time the GT3 was turning its wheels under my custody. Whilst at this point it would have been cool to share those early miles with you, the car was laden with a significant payload of the original ceramic discs and factory GT3 dampers, so I turned the cameras off and enjoyed those first miles in a private moment before digging their cameras out again a few days later. Today is Tuesday. Picked up the car on the Saturday, drove it all day Saturday, got up Sunday, drove it all day Sunday with Mrs. K-Sibs, got up yesterday, drove the car all day, And here we are on Tuesday morning, and I have still not got sick of the sight of those 3 digits ahead of me, GT3, and it's still not sunk in that this car is mine. My 5th Porsche, my 5th 996, but my first GT product, and I am so chuffed. I am so chuffed. I've fielded some questions over the last few days, mainly from members of the Driven Not Hidden Collective, because I shared the pickup with those guys and girls like on the day. So yeah, since then I've had a few questions come my way. So I shall seek to answer the most commonly asked, because maybe you're thinking them too, therefore. So I'll find a good place to pull over, but with any luck, there isn't anything anytime soon. What I will do while we're trying to find somewhere to pull over is fill you in on the backstory. This car had been sitting for sale at Harbour Cars for a long time, I think a year, and neither they nor I could fathom why the car hadn't sold. It has Tractive suspension fitted to it. So after the great success with Little Irish having the system fitted, I called the guys and said, look, can I do a video on the car, because I'm really interested to see how that concept stacks up in a car that, as I've said previously, is unashamedly performance and track focused. So I think it could be a game changer. The team said yes. I took the car out. I got about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in, certainly no more than that, into recording the video, and I pulled over in this car and I rang Chris at Sussex Asset Finance and said, please, we have to do something with this car. How can I get my backside into it? And lo and behold, we made it happen. If I'm honest, it's been a good thing that the video post Harbour Cars driving away didn't quite work out, because I was still learning the car, and as great as it is to film those things for you, sometimes you just need a bit of your own headspace in which to gel with the car, and 380 miles later we're well on the way. I'll offer my thoughts on it in future videos. Well, I've already done it really, but from a personal point of view, I'm really looking forward to sharing this car with you in great detail on 9works TV. So we'll kind of save that for a rainy day. There is a place to pull over up here, so let's do that. Let's answer some of your questions and talk a little bit more about my GT3. My GT3. Right, okay, let's kill that. What I will do is crack a window slightly so I can breathe, find the old mobile blower and answer some of your questions. First impressions on the GT3. Well, I'll give a bit more of that when we go out. I'm going to crack that down more, it's really echoey. Yeah, I'm going to talk a bit more about that when we get on the road. But the Tractive system was a game changer in concept and definitely in reality. I plumbed that into full soft mode, basically, damping as soft as you can go, pitch and roll completely off. I've had a bit of a play with the system since, but the whole reality is, in its softest setting, is making this car more usable on the road, which is where I've driven 380 miles of it so far. It's a game changer, and I would say that 90% of the driving is going to have that in full soft mode to make this more usable. The other thing I really would like to say, and I've mentioned this on 9works Radio podcast as well, is like my whole buying experience with this has completely fortified my faith and belief in the merits of the 9works marketplace. I go on about it all the time on this channel because it's a product I believe in, and this whole experience has been so lovely because where I've strapped on the buying boots, you know, I've basically become you in looking for cars and like practicing what I preach. And the reality is absolutely lived up with that. There aren't many 996 GT3s that tend to come up for sale these days. There are a lot of poo ones out there. So I decided pretty early on I'm only going to buy a car from a dealer on the 9works marketplace, a specialist on the 9works marketplace, because these people know their stuff. They're there because we invite them to be. and we back their process and their product as well as their customer service. So there were 3 cars on the marketplace. One was a Mark 1 and the other 2 were Mark 2s. The other Mark 2 that I was interested in was silver. It's an RPM Technic. It looks lovely, by the way. Silver, extended leather. It looks minted. I went with this one in the end. Funny enough, after chatting to not just Harbour Cars, but Greg at RPM Technic as well, who offered such stellar advice. And I really want to give a shout out to Greg and to say thanks, mate, for that, because, yeah, his advice was amazing. You've got 2 brilliant cars there. And again, this is the difference with the expertise and specialism on the marketplace. These aren't people that just want you to get in a car. It's people who want you to get in the right car and the right car for you. And certainly with this, with the Tractive suspension plumbed in, I want to do a lot more road driving and use this car as much as possible. This was just the perfect answer for me. Next question, why another 996? Yeah, as I said earlier, 5th Porsche purchase in 9 years. All of them 996s. I'm going through the lot. C4, C4S, C2, anniversary, GT3. Wowzers. It all comes down to use case and Porsche lifestyle. And again, this is something that I preach religiously on this channel. And so it would be remiss of me to not follow that. What did I want? I wanted something that would allow me to do more track work. I enjoy that. I wanted something that would be an event to look at, which for me, the anniversary just wasn't. So it needed to be an event to look at. It needed an event to just sit in and enjoy without even starting the key, because over the depths of winter, that's probably what's going to happen. And as you can see, there's rather a lot of mise en scène to, decorate the background in here, which is lovely. So I wanted that. I wanted high drama behind the wheel. And yeah, aside from the track days, I wanted to be able to use it. And the 996, specifically this car, fitted my budget. So the fact this is another 996 is a very happy accident rather than something I specifically sought. Will it be driven, not hidden? Yes. Yes, it will. I've mentioned earlier, it was a big problem for me with the 40th anniversary, just not driving it. I've found that with Little Irish, driving the car just unlocks so much more of the ownership experience. It makes it so much more enjoyable, so much more wholesome, really. And as I've also said previously on this channel, the more you drive, the more you save. I'm well up for that. So yeah, this car, the idea of squirreling a car away, I will never do that again. It just didn't fulfill the entire ownership experience. So I've learnt from that with the wallet, but there we go. So this car will definitely be driven, not hidden. I will stick it away over the dark depths of winter because I live by the sea. These don't have a great deal of underseal on, and yeah, I want to protect what I've purchased, but I will be using it a lot more. Like in the summer, rather than this being a high days and holidays car, it will be use case and basically waking up in the morning and deciding this car or the other one. I would also feature it more on the channel. With the 40th, I wanted to squirrel that away for myself and just to... and I basically knew I wasn't going to drive it much, so I thought it was pointless having it too much on the channel. Again, complete reset of mindset on that. So this, you will see a lot of on the channel, hopefully as much as Little Irish going forward. Why was it for sale for so long? Yeah, it's funny how things work out, isn't it? You know, this car was for sale for like over a year. I kept seeing it at Harbour Cars. It only started winking at me latterly this year, I think, when I realised I could get into one and it was where I wanted to go for my next step. So many people have said I don't understand why the car hadn't sold at Harbour Cars. The team couldn't work it out, I couldn't work it out, and so many people I spoke to said the same. Those that are a bit more in tune with these cars opined that possibly the Tractive element, i.e. the modified element, was what was putting off those, you know, like collectors and all that sort of stuff, which I understand. But I'm not a collector. I am somebody who wants to drive the car. So where this has all come to fruition rather beautifully and looking through the history, so yes, it's got aftermarket brakes on, but a lot of people upgrade the brakes because the originals, ceramics even, aren't up to modern day standards. The suspension being brand new, like over $6,500 spent on the suspension alone last year, means I haven't got to fork out on replacing tired factory suspension because these cars are 20 years old, even if they've done sub 30,000 miles. So that was really interesting. The diffs on them don't last forever. This had a new diff in 2013. By the way, the original dampers and ceramics, PCCBs, come with this car. I have them at home. So it's just perfect. It's perfect for me. I kind of assimilate it to having, you know, a nice shiny £50 note on the high street floor with a big white circle around it and everybody walking over it. And because everybody else is walking over it, the people behind them are thinking, well, I can't have that. There must be something wrong with that. I can't pick it up. But then I've come along and gone, thank you very much. So, yeah, that's kind of how I view this car. Like, this was destined for my ownership, I would say. 3 left. Were there any other options or choices considered? Yes, there were. So going back to what I said, it was 996 by default rather than design in terms of where I ended up. So the things I said I wanted earlier, you know, high drama, ability to be able to cover track days, but also use more generally. That meant I looked at 981 GT4s. A couple of people thought that was where I was going to go down. Really love the original GT4. Really, really love it. I just am an unashamed 911 diehard. I know that makes me really sad, but I just am. For me, as I've always said, there's nothing that goes down the road quite like a 911. Nothing brings me joy quite in the way a 911 does in the realm of automotive. So it had to be a 911. That's why the GT4 was ruled out ultimately, although I really do love the car. I also looked at 997 GT3s. Ben from the Collective let me drive his lovely 997.1 example on the way to the Porsche Museum for our road trip this year. Loved it. The 997.1 is dynamically a superior car to this. I've done a video comparing the two on 9works TV previously. Naturally a faster car. They've just gone in values this year. Like, they've kicked on. There was a big overlap between these two cars, 996 and 7. 997s have kicked on this year. I think pulled up by the RS 4 litre, which is going stratospheric. That's pulled up the Ren Sport, certainly the 3.8, which I think is about to take off. And the GT products has been pulled up as a result of that. They are more than I can afford. So that ruled that out. The other thing I'd say is, you know, the clutch on the 997 Gen 1 GT3 and the shift action. In here it's not as heavy, and I just prefer the shift action in this car over the 997. I found the 997 shift to just be a bit of a workout, whereas this I don't. So yeah, very happily it came down to 996 GT3s, which are all in a similar ballpark. I did fleetingly consider a Mark 1, very quickly ruled it out because of the overlap with Little Irish, way too similar, and I wanted different extremes really. And although Little Irish is a bit of a hot rod, this is very much an unashamed Porsche motorsport car, very different, far more convincing and compelling in its performance. Penultimate question, what's with the plate? I wanted to stick a personal reg on the car. I basically wanted it to say GT3, and this car is a hero car for me, an absolute hero car. I still can't believe I own it. So yeah, the plate was kind of a nod to that really. It's my hero GT3. There are some acronyms that can come into play here. GT3 HRO could stand for high revving object. It could stand for helps relax owner when behind the wheel. It could stand for, as PP said in the Collective, in reference to the Tractive, harsh ride obliterated, which I like. My favourite though, I had to sell a very nice watch to stick into the deposit for this car. So HRO could very well stand for had Rolex once. So that's the number plate. Just a bit of a laugh for me really, if probably no one else. Last question, probably most important, and one that has a very short answer. What's going to happen to Little Irish? Are you going to sell it? The answer emphatically is no. Little Irish is going absolutely nowhere. It'll probably outlast this one in my garage. It'll probably outlast the 911 after that as well. And that is the end of that. That's questions over. Let's wrap the video up with just top level first impressions on my 911 996.2 GT3. So a quick conclusion really, the first days and miles on this car. Well, I love the setup. It definitely is drivable and usable on the road with its softer suspension and Geo, to be honest, done by 9 Excellence. I don't know 9 Excellence at all, but certainly the Geo is really wonderfully set up so far, so that's good. I've no issue driving this car at all. The seats are comfortable, the ride isn't unduly crashy, the steering is pulsing and twitching in my hand as we negotiate curves and cambers and cracks in the road, but not to the extent that it is a pain in the backside. And I've driven like lots of, say, 996 RSs on the road, for example, where that is the case. Not so here. To be honest, I can definitely foresee road trip miles in this car next year, so that's good. I'm going to turn round here at this point. Let's let the Dorset Fernando Alonso rip past. Wonderful. Yeah, the other thing is, you know, this car doesn't have any traction control or driver aids. It's just pure connection between car and driver, and with any luck, floor. And again, I quite like that. I wanted a car that made me think about my inputs, and to be honest, scared me a little bit from time to time. But again, that is where the car is so different from Little Irish, which feels like really safe, and exploiting the grip on the road is kind of the fun, part of the fun. I think the difference between this and that car, for example, where this is a genuine Porsche Motorsport product rather than a have-a-go project made in a garage at home, that is enough of a difference between these two cars. They are so different, so different, despite both being 996s. The other thing I want to point out is, and obviously this doesn't have extended leather or anything like that, but this is a very late GT3. It's a 2005 model year car, delivered to its original owner on Christmas Eve 2004, mega Christmas present. But the build quality is far superior than my 1998 996. The last model year of 996s were really good for build quality, but they'll never get that credit that they deserve because they're a 996. There's a big difference that I can see between my two cars that really bookend 996 production. I think we'll leave it at that. I'd like to explore this in more detail as we go. You will see more of this car on the channel, as I said. Just a big thanks to everybody for their support over the years, particularly the DNHC, the Driven Not Hidden Collective. As I said on the WhatsApp group, you know, there's some sticky moments for me personally over the last 18 months since Total 911 magazine closed down. But those people, the well-wishers of those people, alongside my wife and family, yeah, you'll never really understand just how much that meant to me and how much that did for me. So culminating in the purchase of this and the miles since, I feel like is the high reward for me and hopefully everybody associated with. Thank you so much for your support. It means so much. And we'll see you again soon on 9motors TV with lots more GT3 content incoming, I can assure. Take care.